All right, hey guys, welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to be learning about how to use PHP to talk to a MySQL. We're not going to be doing Apache. We're going to just keep things simple for now and just do from the command line. This lesson is going to build on the previous lesson. So in the previous lesson, we created a table in MySQL and added some data to that. So if you haven't done that yet, let's go over that just to review. We're going to log into our database and just from the command line and verify that the data is there. And I'm just going to run a select statement to see that the data is there. So I'm just selecting a few columns from the users table with the qualifier where email equals jim@fakemail.com and password equals 12345. This is going to be essentially the same query we're going to be running from PHP, but we're going to do it from the command line here to make sure that it works first. So we've got our data, we've got our record return. There is other data in that table. There's another record also, but we know that the one that we want is there. So if you didn't do the previous lesson, you can either just look at the stuff on the website real quick and copy and paste it in, or you can go through the lesson. It's up to you. So now, how do we do that in PHP? The first thing we do, so if we're just for now, ignore that stuff up there. The first thing we're going to do is create a connection to the MySQL database. We do that by creating I don't know if this is a class or what this is. It's called a connector. We create a new MySQLi connector. We pass it a few arguments: db host, db user, db pass, and db name. And those we have defined up here. I like to put those in variables just because it makes things easier. This is all the same familiar info we're used to. And then I always do a check after creating that connection just to make sure that there are no errors. Because if there are errors, we'd rather know about that now rather than later when we try and select something. So if connection error, die, connection failed, and spit out what that error was. If not, then the rest of the script continues. So, okay, cool. So we are going to prepare our SQL statement. Now that we're connected, we're going to prepare our SQL statement. So this is essentially the same query we ran before. Select, here's some columns from users where email equals email and password equals password. I just throw that into a variable, and then we call the MySQLi query function and pass it two parameters, two arguments rather, pass it two arguments. One is con, which is the connection we set up earlier, and then the second argument is the SQL that we want to execute. The next thing we're checking is, what that gives us back is a pointer to the results that query returned. I don't know if it just gives us all the results and shoves it into a variable or if it's just a pointer. I'll have to look that up. But so either way, there's a function, MySQLi num rows, that tells us how many rows are in that result that we got back, or result set. So it might be 1 row, it might be 0 rows, it might be 20 rows, but this will tell us how it was. And so since for our example, or for our long-term project, we're going to actually be creating a very basic, what could be a very basic social media site where we're going to actually have people log in, or we're going to, we can allow a user to log in. We want to check that someone can, if someone logs in correctly, the email address and password should match. So, and then we'll get one result returned. If the password is wrong or the email is wrong, if either one of those doesn't match what's in the database, then we'll get zero rows returned, and we know that that's bad credentials. So in this example, if we have 0 rows returned, we just echo no rows returned from query and we exit. Now the next little bit down here is we're going to fetch 1 row from that result set with the MySQLi fetch row function. That gives us back an array with our columns that we specified in our select query. So we specified 2 columns. We specified user ID and name. So the first element in that row array, row sub 0, is going to be user ID. The next element in that array is going to be name, and it'll be the exact order that we specified in our select statement. That's what we get back in the order of our array. And then we're just going to print out what we got. User ID is user ID, name equals name. So let's run that now and see what happens. So that's exactly what we were expecting. That's what we got when we did it from the command line. So that's it. Pretty simple lesson. I'd say the homework is just, make this script, do this, and make sure that it runs and you get your data back. And I would even say test it by giving it bad data, so give it like a bad email address or a bad password and see what gets returned. Or see how many rows get returned and how do you handle that. So all right, cool. That's it for this lesson. I will see you guys on the next one.